Okay. So a very good evening to all friend and colleague. Today, as a part of our continuous counseling session, is I always mention that counseling session now whenever I share this banner in different social networking site, I always mention that learning sustainability science means postgraduate diploma in sustainability science is not only whatever we are reading in our self-learning material. It is also about continuous debates and discussion on the latest issues in this new emerging areas. So, and I mean, we are having a very proactive team of learners in our group, especially in this session. Uh, Today, after completion of this counseling session for the MSD 011, we have already completed first block of MSD 012, and it talks about the basic of ecosystem and this ecosystem services, biodiversity. Now, the basic foundation of this ecosystem and biodiversity is what? It is land, soil, water, and many more. So today, Dr. Diksha will talk on one of the basic foundation of life, that is land. As a resources, we have all the given basic concept about land and others. Today, let us look into how sustainable land management has to take place, also how to follow those practices. So uh, I welcome you, Madam, in this session as a program coordinator. She is very much part of this, team, but formally, I'm welcoming you on behalf of all learners. So I'm handing over this session to you. Please, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, sir. And very happy to see that one block of MSD 012 has been done. So, our students must be aware about the importance of resources, particularly for their sustainable management. So, learners, today under this course, Ecosystem and Natural Resource Management, as sir has already mentioned, that apart from the study material, the information which is being given in the study material, there is so much other things, which makes you remain updated about the sustainability and the sustainable use of the resources. So today in our class, we will be talking about a very important resource, which is the base of all the other resources, I can say, that is the land resources. And today we will be talking about sustainable land management, that how uh, you can what are the constraints and how land resources are important, what role do they play, what is the current situation of the land resources, and how we can manage them uh, in a sustainable manner. So, beginning with this, uh, what is a land? As common definition, or as our common perception, we see land as a finite resource, because it is limited in the sense that our needs, our demands for our requirements are many. So it just not refers to the soil, because most of the times when we talk about soil pollution and it is the land pollution, it is much more than that. So it is the combined resources of the earth's terrain, which includes all the different types of topographical features which we have on the planet. And most importantly, as it has been said, that it is the base of the other resources. So you cannot study forest resources until and unless you have an idea about the land resources. You cannot separate land resources and the forest resources. Similar is the case with the water resources. So these are interrelated things, and therefore it is said that it is a vast resources, and there is a great importance of this resource. Why? Because you must know that agriculture is, very well we know that agriculture takes place on the land, and how agriculture is important. And apart from that, as we look back, we know that human civilization has taken shape on land. We have we must have studied about the river valley civilization and all the types of the civilizations which have developed on the land. So looking into land and its historical features, we know that land has got a great utility. Apart from that, as it has been mentioned, it is used for agriculture purposes, which is important for our survival, for our growth, for our industrialization. Industries are set up on the land. Minerals, earth is a huge, you know, um, storehouse of the different minerals which we are extracting from the land surfaces. So that way also land has a great utility. And apart from that, land is supporting all our economic activities in the form of course, tourism is there, in the form of your different activities, in the form of the residential, in the form of your different growth prospects which we find in the urban area, the construction of the different, you can say, the construction, be it the road construction or is the building constructions, or the different types of the commercial enterprises which are coming. So everything is being supported on the land. Now when you look at that, you find that there's a multifarious use of these land resources, and these resources as a land is being utilized for different purposes, but that utilization doesn't take into account particularly the characteristics of the land. And that is why the need for sustainable land management has emerged greatly today, because we take the land for granted, because we whenever we think about the land and its utilization and its usage by us, it is largely on the basis of the benefits that we will get on that piece of land. So this is the most neglected piece of the resource, in that sense we can say, because the inputs which we give to the land and the outputs which we are getting, we are not directly concerned with the land and its quality. So in today's session particularly, we will be taking land as a whole, and we will see that how land is an important. So as it has been, do we consider mountains as lands? No. When we think about the land, it is only the plain land where agriculture is possible, where industries can be set up, where flyovers can be made, where you can have any kind of a commercial activity. But we must not forget that mountains, hills, plateaus, and plains, these are the main forms of the land which are there. Every landform mentioned here is unique. Mountains and hills have different ecological characteristics, have different terrain, have different climatic conditions. Plateau, on the other hand, has altogether different characteristics. Plains are altogether different. But usage of land across all these terrains is common, as you find. We want to construct roads in the plain areas also, in the mountainous areas also. We have to have agriculture, industrial agriculture, particularly all types of plantations in these different landforms. So that is actually dangerous when we do not consider the physical, chemical, and the biological properties of the land and use it for the commercial purposes, thinking that it is there and it will be like that only. That particularly leads to land degradation, which we'll be talking about. uh, other. And yesterday only, as it has been, as the point has come, yesterday we celebrated the International Day of Mountains, that is the 11th December. So mountains are very important, which is also one of the major shareholder under the land resources, we can say. If we take the case of India only, we can say that 30% of the total surface area of our country is mountains and hills. If we look at worldwide, it is 24% of the world's area is mountainous area, which supports 13% of the population. Now, 13% of the world population is dependent upon the mountains, and around 75% of the waters which we are getting in the plain areas, in the plateau areas, has emerged from the mountains. So mountains in the form of the glaciers, in the form of the origin of different rivers, they are very important. But that is why in the initially we were saying that they are all related to each other. If we talk about the ecological benefits, more than 50% of the biodiversity hotspots, they are there in the mountains. So but the state of the mountains today, we very well know how they have been deteriorated, how deforestation has taken place in these forests, in these mountains. So we have to look at those things also. We have to consider that these different forms of the land have peculiar characteristics. Similarly, in India, 43% of the land is a plain area, and that plain area is for agriculture, for industries, and these kind of, the largest area we can say, which has been exploited at the maximum extent. Obviously, it contains the soils which are very fertile, which support agriculture and the other activities, but then also there are certain issues related to these plain areas also. And 27% of the area of the country is the plateau region, the central India part of the, which has a different kind of a soil, different requirements, different inputs, and also the different types of benefits which we can get out of them. So we will see further that how land use and land use planning is important in this context, where we find different geographical terrains out of these land resources. So, as simple as it may seem to be that it is the land resources, but when you talk about their sustainable utilization, it requires a lot of planning, lot of evaluation, lot of monitoring, and lot of other things which we have to consider. And we must not forget that if you talk about soil also, what is there? A simple 1 centimeter of soil formation also it takes millions of years. So when we are using land indiscriminately, when we are using it land without thinking, without giving it time for regeneration, then there is a problem. So we have to think about all these aspects. And first of all, it is essential for us to understand that how the land resources of our country are divided. Here it was the picture shown of our country, where we are saying that this much is the plain area, the largest percentage. Then we have the mountainous areas, then we have the plateau regions, and apart from that we also have the coastal areas. We have a long coastline, so there the land is entirely different. So that kind of exercise is very much required when we talk about the sustainable land management. We need to take into consideration that how varied the landforms are there in our country, and then only we can think about their management. So before going into the details, let us talk about some basic terms which we come across when we talk about land resources and land management.
This was mistake, madam. आप
Okay,
on करो.
okay,
हाँ
okay,
हाँ, okay.
okay, okay. So there are certain terms which appear to be very much similar, but we must understand the differences between them. So that is land cover. We know what is a land cover. Land cover, we come across this term very often. This is the observed physical and the biological properties of the land. We can look at the land, we can see the physical characteristics, and we can see that it is a bare ground, or it is a forest area, it is an agricultural area, it is a fallow land, or it is uncultivable land, it is a you can say the wasteland. So by observing only we can say, and that is the different percentage which we have to calculate, that how much of our country, what is the land cover of our country. Then there is a land quality. The way when you talk about the land quality, means the state of the condition, and the state of the condition will emerge when you will compare it with the benefits which you think you will be getting. So if it is an agricultural land, we will look at the land quality in terms of getting the output, in terms of the productivity, the yield of the crops that you are getting. When we talk about the forestry, there we will be talking about the land quality in terms of different aspects, that what is the uh, tree cover of that land area. So that is the land quality. And when land quality, whenever it is talked about, it talks into consideration of different aspects of land use. Okay, and the type of the soil, the type of the climatic conditions, the type of the moisture, the type of the use of the land in that area. So that altogether will give us an understanding about the quality of the land in that area. Then we have the land use, how the land is used or managed, how we are using. So if you look at the screen, you find that land use in India, according to the latest findings, is maximum land which we are using in our country is for agriculture, that is 60%. Then we have the arable land, that is 52%. We have the pastures or the grazing lands 3%, forest is 23%, and the rest is the constructed lands where we have the roads, where we have the buildings, where we have the people residing. That is a 16.4% of the land. So that is also very important for us to understand that what is the land use, and then only, and what is the pity is that what is happening, the agricultural land is increasing and the forest, the land under forest is decreasing. The other use of the land that is increasing, and the other particularly the forest land, and that is also decreasing. So this change in the proportion which has been seen over decades in our country, where we can see that how the land use, that is why there has been various studies which have been conducted, and which see that how the land use has changed over several years in our country, and that particularly reflects about the change of the environment, that particularly reflects about the economy, how the economy has changed and how land use practices. It's a very interesting field of study where you see that how land use practices have been managed, and how we are using the land for different purposes, and how we have moved from the traditional ways of land conservation, traditional usage of the land, and how we have moved towards the commercialization. And that is actually the fourth one, that is the land pricing. We accord pricing of the land on the basis of the outputs that we are getting, and land pricing is based on the productivity of the land. So it is the value of the land also, that particularly takes into account the location of the land, or it takes into account the you can say the climatic conditions of the land, the future prospects of the land, and any upgradation if it is possible, any future plans attached with the land, that gives the value of the land pricing. So these are common terms with relates to the land, which we must understand that what is the difference. These are the some of the common things. As a student of sustainability sciences, you must be well versed with these terms, that what is the land use and how it differs from land cover, what is land quality, and what is land pricing. Then accordingly we also classify the land. This is the common classification. However, after this, ICAR has given the ninefold classification of the land, where more categories have been introduced. So here this is the common classification. The first is forest land, which is very easy to understand, that how much of the land is under forest, the different types of forest. We have evergreen forest, mountain forest, and different kinds of the coastal forest. So how much of the land is under forest land? Then there is a land which is not available for cultivation, where agriculture is not possible, where we have the barren land, the soil which doesn't support agriculture. There is a waste land, there is a constructed land where concretization has been done, buildings have been framed, people have been living, or commercial things have been done. Then there is uncultivated land, which includes the pastures, the grazing lands, the fallow land. You must be knowing what is a fallow land. The land which is without, which is purposely left without cultivation for some period of time so that the soil replenishes itself. That is the fallow land. And then there is an agricultural land which includes the rainfed and the irrigated agricultural land. So the broad categories of the land which you can find. And uh, around 51% of the India's geographical area is under cultivation as compared to 11% of the world average. So most of the times we utilizing the land because we are predominantly an agricultural country. We are growing different types of crops. We are exporting, and most of our activities on land range around this agriculture and agriculture, elite agriculture activities only. So it is around 60% according to 2016. It is 60% of the land according to World Bank collection of development indicators. So it is this, and maybe in another 4 5 years it must have been increased only because of growing demands of population. One-sixth of India's land is either barren or overgrown with vegetation that has turned wild. So which is not being grown. 21% is under forest and 3.92 is under pasture. Built up areas and uncultivated land occupy 12.34% according to Kundra. So these are the figures, which give you a rough understanding of the different types of the land resources and the utilization of the land resources as per the different activities which have been predominantly which have been going in our country. And about 5.17% of the total land is uncultivated. which has a prospect of being converted into agricultural land. So with proper inputs, there are quite possibility that this land can be converted into agricultural land with um, maybe utilization of different new techniques. So looking into all this, we have different prospects of the land. In the land use classification, we have seen the land can be used for agriculture, land can be used for forestry, it can be put aside for the grazing land, but it requires proper land use planning, because we as a country, which is going to surpass China by 2027 as it is predicted, we need land. We need land to accommodate this growing population. We need land to grow crops. We need land for all other activities. And it is a finite resource. You cannot increase the land beyond a certain capacity. So, what is required is a proper land use planning. So, it is a need to regulate the use of land in an effort to promote more desirable social and environmental outcomes. So it is very interesting to note the term social here. It is very important to see that how social parameters are linked with this land use planning particularly, and sustainable land management as a whole. How socially and social indicators are useful and how do they play their role. So it refers to making appropriate decisions on land. This is something which is very important for you to understand. Appropriate decisions on land use. Who decides whether the land will be used for agriculture for this crop, or with land will be used for construction? Who decides this land? So are the people who have been living in those places being made part of these decision making? So if not, a proper appropriate land use planning and sustainable land management, of course, requires the inputs from all these stakeholders, because there are different stakeholders, the people who have been living there. And that is why it has been said that the role of, it should not be command and control regulation kind of a thing. Rather, it should be mutual sharing of the responsibilities. That is very important. So there are certain steps, technically speaking, why we first, the question arises that why do we need to plan the land use? For that we have the answer: because we want the optimum utilization of the land to serve our various benefits. Now what are the steps is, there is a need for recognition of a need for a change. You must have a clear cut information, you can say background information or baseline information about the land characteristics, and there is a need for change. There is an identification of aims, where you know that what is the purpose, how much change will it bring to the life of the people and to the environment as a whole. Then formulation of the proposals, recognition and delineation of the different types of land present in that area. In a particular sample study, what are the different kinds of the land, what are the physical chemical properties of those land patches in that area, and how we are going to demarcate the different types of land uses in that particular piece of land. Then comparison and evaluation of each type of land for the different uses, selection of a preferred use, project design, implementation and monitoring. These particular steps are particularly useful, we can say, when we are doing land use planning for a broader scale, when we are thinking of setting up of an industrial plant, or whether we are thinking of setting up of an agricultural plantation for a yield which we are expecting to be very high. So if you are going to convert a particular forest area or a wetland area in an agricultural area, so this particularly holds importance when we are doing it in a, you can say, a macro scale. So these steps are very important in land use planning. And there is a land use evaluation. When you talk about evaluation, if land evaluation is a part of the planning process, you cannot go for planning unless and until you have done the exercise of land evaluation. Simply speaking, land evaluation means you know how the land is performing. So land on the basis of the land use, how the land is performing, if it is an agricultural land, if it is a forest land, or if it is a fallow land, how the land is performing, that is the land evaluation. So land evaluation also requires the inputs from several specialists. It is not just the people who are from the economic considerations, but also it requires the inputs from the social scientists, from the anthropologists who have been living in those places for long. Also, it requires the inputs from the community leaders who have been using those land resources for a very long period of time. So, that is the purpose of land evaluation, how you can evaluate the land. Now, how, what are the principles of land evaluation? Because the basic purpose of the land evaluation, we have seen that it is to, you have to, because land evaluation is like you see the inputs, what you have been, what have been given in that area, and you calculate the output, that what benefits you are getting by providing these inputs. On the basis of that, you arrive at the conclusion that how land is being evaluated. But in this there are certain principles, means how will you go for land evaluation. The number one principle is assessment of land suitability. Now, land suitability is very important. For example, if there is a soil, alluvial soil, so that particular soil may be good for rice cultivation, but it is not at all good for forestry. So that kind of exercise, whether we are growing a water intensive crop in a water scarce land, whether it is a good idea, whether uh, any kind of setting up of pasture land is possible in this area, does it have that much of capacities. So land suitability will consider the soil types, the climatic conditions, the population, the people who have been living in that area. So that kind of things. So it will answer questions. What kind of questions it will be answered, like how it is managed at present, what change will it bring if we propose some change, are those changes sustainable, will it go for long term, or it is a short term solution to any existing problem. So that kind of assessment is first of all the primary principle in land evaluation. Then you have to compare the benefits of the outputs which you are giving and the inputs which are required. So that kind of comparison is very much essential. Multidisciplinary approach, because it cannot be a one person decision, in a way we can say. So it has to be looked from the various angles. You can say angles means it has to be looked from the various perspectives: economic perspective, ecological perspective, social perspective, demographic perspective, policy level perspective. So different perspectives you have to see, then you have to arrive at the conclusion that how land will be evaluated. And it must be relevant to physical, economic, and social context of that area. It should be sustainable, and it should be comparison of more than one variables present. So that is also one of the important principles. So when you go for all these principles, you come for proper land evaluation. Now, what is land utilization? Is management of the lands which are not used in such a way to make it appropriate for living or for industrial uses. So, how land utilization differs is means how we are using the land. Now, uh, there are two terms, land use and land utilization, which appear to be very similar. But how about what difference is there? So, when we were talking about land use in our previous slides, land use is use of the particular piece of land for any purposes, that is the land use. But land utilization is a scientific technical term which states that it calculates how inputs are being made, what are the benefits which you are getting, and how sustainable this kind of land is. So land utilization is a broader concept than land use. Land use simply depicts the use of the land in that area, but land utilization is, taking into consideration several factors, and it is a more appropriate, more scientific term than land use. So there are two types of land uses, land utilization: multiple and compound land utilization. We need to understand this. When we talk about multiple land utilization, means there is a condition where a piece of land uh, has more than one kind of a land use. Here you will find the difference, how land use and land utilization differs. So the same piece of land where different types of land uses can be possible. For example, you know about agroforestry. There are instances in Southeast Asia where in the rice fields, where in the coconut, aside to the coconut trees, the rice plantations are put. So in the same piece of land, you find the coconut trees also and the rice plantations also. That includes multiple land utilizations, where on the same piece of land, we are deriving the benefits or we are using the land for two purposes. When there is a compound land utilization, it refers to the condition that where more than one kind of land use done with the land, which is considered as a single unit for evaluation. For example, very simple, there is a winter crops, there are summer crops grown on the same piece of land. It is considered as a single entity. When you go for land evaluation, when we do, it is considered as a same piece of land, but there are two cropping seasons. So two usage is the same, but more than one kind of use at different scales and different places of time. So this is about the land utilization. Now, that was, up till now, I was just talking about the land and how land has to be done and how land planning. It's a kind of a general intro about land utilization, land planning, and land management. We can say we have studied. Now, what is the current problem in today's scenario? What we find is that as simple as it may seem to be, unsustainable land use practices lead to land degradation, desertification, and soil erosion. Now, these are some of the very scary terms which always come whenever we are talking about land resources and land pollution and land management. These are some of the things which are very common, and you must be aware. You must have well read about all these things. That what is land degradation? You very well know the quality of the land is being degraded, and when you do not give the time for the land to renew itself, basically, because when you go on using the land indiscriminately, because land has a capacity to renew itself if given a time. So when we are not giving sufficient time and the resources for the land to renew itself, to get back the nutrients again, there is a degradation of the land which occurs. And as per the latest statistics, today's Times of India, if you have read, it has a huge account of land and land resources. It has been given. It really helped me. And it states that more than 75% of the world's land is degraded. The quality is not up to the mark. There are unfavorable changes on the land. And by 2050, it is predicted that 90% of the land will be degraded. So, really a point of worry. Desertification, we very well know that how desert-like conditions have been created, and about one third of the world's area is under desert or desert-like conditions. Last year or so, we hosted the UN COP Desertification Summit in India, and there were huge discussions, deliberations, and where we discussed this point in a great detail, that how desertification is creating a problem, and it has a particular concern to the country which has a semi-arid kind of a climate. So it really makes a point of worry. And soil erosion, we very well know that how soil gets eroded, and there will be more number of soil refugees, as it is said, by 1 billion by 2050, where people will have to migrate from one place to another because of the poor soil quality, and because the soil will not be able to support them and the soil is eroded. Basically, in India, if we say that it is more of a water erosion, soil erosion is basically caused by water. So these are unsustainable land use practices, how we have been using the land unsustainably, which is causing these problems. So quickly moving on to land degradation, it is a decline in the quality, as it has been said that when the quality of the land changes, when we are not able to support, when we are not able to give it a chance to renew, that is a degradation. And there is or in other words, we can say that change or disturbances in the properties of the land. There are physical, chemical, biological properties of the land, they get disturbed because of so many factors. Land degradation in agricultural context, it is different because of fertilizers. In forest area, you can say it is entirely different because of deforestation. In any other areas, it may be because of example, if we talk about the waste pollution, so it may be because of the dumping of the chemical rich substances. So different types of changes and disturbances in the properties of the land when they are occurring, so that causes the land to get degraded, to lose its properties, and the lowering of the capability of the land, so it is not able to give the ecological services in the long run. In the short term, we, because in the today's scenario we see that how industrial farming is being practiced, because we are not interested more in the uh, quick quick crops. We want things, we want results quickly, but those are not sustainable, and it is not, therefore a degraded land is not in a position to help in the ecological services. The economic services may be provided for a short period of time, but it is difficult to maintain the ecological services of the land. So this is something which is very important. So these are some of the statistics and figures before us which are very alarming, very disturbing. So it states that climate change is one of the main drivers of land degradation. There is no denying. We know that how climate change disturbs our weather, precipitation patterns, our agriculture, our movement from one place to another. So no doubt that climate change leads to land degradation, and India is supporting 18% of the global population only on 2% of the land mass. So therefore, we need to be, we need to have this land use planning and land utilization at a much broader, at a much larger scale and then the other countries, because in spite of having only 2%, we have the 18% of the share of the world population. So where these people will live, what these people will eat, because land is indirectly related to water resources also. And land degradation affects about 30% of all land in India. And just now we were talking that 75% of the world's land is degraded and projected to be 90% by 2050. And we are losing economically also. So these are the not just the ecological considerations. We think that how land is being harmed, but there are economic costs associated with it, which we will be paying in the long run. So that is something important. So, what are the causes? We very well know that there are direct anthropogenic influences. We go for deforestation. Deforestation is more pronounced in semi-arid regions. Cutting down of trees, it means it makes the soil loosen. It is responsible for the soil erosion. It is responsible for you know you can say climate change is particularly affected because global warming, because soils, one third of the soil, one third of the carbon, you can say, is more trapped by the soil than the vegetation, which we always overlook, because soil is a dynamic entity. It is not a static one. It hosts the microbes. So when the deforestation occurs, the soil is let loose, we very well know. And soil is very important. We also have the International Soil Day somewhere we celebrated a few days back. So soil is also responsible, you can say. Soil health is not only important for bringing rains but also for grains, you can say. So deforestation disturbs all this. Overgrazing is, there is no such kind of a, we don't have that much of demarcated grasslands in our country as in some other countries it is there. So there is overgrazing taking place. There is a extensive use of chemical fertilizers, nitrogen, phosphorus. We supply, we give them nitrogenous, phosphorus rich fertilizers for the better growth of our crops. But in turn, we make the soil devoid of important other nutrients which are essential for the soil health also. So other nutrients like sulfur, etc., which are very important, they are not available. Soil microorganisms are not there. That also leads to land degradation in the long run. Over extraction of groundwater is very rampant. We have seen that how groundwater is being extracted at an alarming rate, and it depletes not only the groundwater and not only creates a problem in terms of water resources, but incidences like more number of earthquakes occurring, that also has been noticed at the places where groundwater is extracted more and more. There are indirect causes also, because which are responsible more for these direct causes, and there's a shortage of the land. We say there is a land shortage because our demands are excessive, our demands are more. So land shortage in the sense that we need, there's a limited piece of land available, only 2% if we talk about in terms of words share. So we need that land for agriculture and for other purposes. There are economic pressures because of which there is a more, I talked about industrial farming, more growth of the cash crops, more inputs given to the use of the land, which will give more returns. That land pricing we were talking. So if there is a land, better to establish any industry which will give you more returns. So economic pressures are there, poverty is one of the important factor, and population increase is the umbrella factor, I can say, which is responsible for all this. So to grow more, you need, you have the limited land, and we want more and more from that land. So all these types of practices are going on, which lead to the degradation of the land at a very very fast rate, and it will take time, it will take years for the land to get back to its normal properties. And these are also some of the uh, figures which tell you that excessive cultivation, that is also excessive cultivation, we can say, taking place. Soil erosion and deforestation are degrading India's land, because our focus now is mostly on the crops which have a more market value, mostly rice and wheat, replacing all other types of the crops. So that is also disturbing, because traditional food items and the other local specific food which we used to have no market. So therefore that is excessive cultivation taking place, small land holdings, using different types of machinery, different types of mechanisms, and ultimately reducing the quality of the land. Then we have only restored limited proportion of the land, and it is very difficult to get back to the original state. So therefore we have to move towards this restoration plans where we can utilize the land resources in a more sustainable manner. So this is desertification. We were talking that how biological potential of the land gets disturbed. We know that desert like conditions prevail when there is a less precipitation and more temperatures and less vegetation. So this has been seen, we have seen, look at the data and look at the weather events which have occurred over the last 5 years, and you will see how changes in the climate have taken place, and how much of the desert area we are increasing every year. So this increase in the area under desert is a problem, because that part will not be able to support any growth of agricultural crops, will have extremes of temperatures, will have scarcity of water, and there will be a problem. So according to European Commission's World Atlas of Desertification, more than 75% of the total land is already included, and this we have been discussing that this is something which is disturbing. So another issue related to land is soil erosion. We know what is a soil erosion and how we are losing the soil, which is a very vital resource. Just now I was talking about that soil and soil health depends on soil aeration, it depends on soil moisture, it depends on soil biological characteristics, and we are responsible for taking for granted the soil, because we have been using and cultivating different kinds of crops no matter what on any kind of soil. Either we are going for excessive irrigation, and when we go for excessive irrigation, in the long term there is alkalinity in the soil, there is solidification of the soil, there is excessive groundwater, and use of water sensitive crops when we are growing, and we are relying mostly on the irrigation practices for the land surfaces. It does create a problem. It reduces the natural capacity of the soil to renew itself. And when the soil is not able to renew itself, there are instances like this which are occurring. So we are losing. Soil degradation is something which is very important. We have to look back, because soil is the cradle where we have grown. So we get crops from the soil, and health of the soil is very very important. We know the state of the affairs of the chemical rich soils of our Indian farms. We know how pesticides and fertilizers have been used, and what health problems people are facing directly, the farmers who are using this, and indirectly people who are consuming the food grown in such places. There are a lot many stories where we can see, where we can read that how soil and soil degradation is not good for, not only for the soil, for the land, for agriculture, but for our own health also. So that is something which we must understand. So there are different causes of soil erosion. There's a rainfall, there's a topography. Steep areas generally have more cases of soil erosion, the type of vegetation, the type of the tillage we are using, nature of the soil, soil moisture. So and wind speed. So these are some of the factors which increase, which accelerate the pace of the soil, how it is getting degraded. So moving on, we have sustainable land management. What does it mean? That how sustainable land management means, we have to employ procedures. We need to take into account the processes, how we can use the land sustainability. We have to look for some eco-friendly measures. We have to go back to our biodiversity. We have to take the help from the nature cycle which have already been operating in nature, which we have which we have forgotten since times long. So we need to take into account, we need to integrate different procedures, and we have to see that how we are able to improve the productivity, how we are able to enhance the productivity of the land, and how we are able to draw the benefits as long as we have been doing, as is the case with other resources. When we talk about sustainable management, we have to first of all take into consideration, are our efforts going to last after 5 years or 10 years? If it is not so, it is not a sustainable solution. So when you look at the source of irrigation, when you look at the use of land for horticulture, when you look at the land for growing or setting up any forestry or any other land use, we have to see. That is why all the previous lessons which we have studied on the principles of land use and land use planning, they all have to help for the sustainable land management. And also it is important to look into the geography and the water conditions of that area to arrive at a proper decision making regarding sustainable land management. So in this also there are principles, and number one principle is global concerns for sustainability. We have to understand and we have to see, as it has been said earlier also, that every stakeholder is important. For particularly resource management, every stakeholder is important, because it is not a good decision, it's not a good idea to tell the farmers what to do, but it is always better to include them in the decision making so that they themselves know, because ultimately they are going to practice agriculture in their own fields. So instead of having a command and control, better to have a global concern, global information sharing, a kind of a rapport between the different stakeholders. For example, we have the instances where we promote organic crops, but if the organic crops have no market outside, there is no point of growing them. So a kind of a cohort is essential, a kind of a proper, we need to have a kind of a cycle where we are able to support each other. That is only going to make a difference. In many cases it has been seen that organic crops and all these things are considered to be very expensive. Most of the times people are not encouraged to buy them, so in that case people will never be and using them. Similarly, we promote composting, there should be composting in our farms and all that, but that fertilizer, if it has no market outside, then what is the point? If the people still go on purchasing the nitrogenous fertilizers, then who is going to come for your compost? So there has to be a proper dialogue between different stakeholders, then only the things will move on. So there has to be a global concern. Then promotion of sustainable agriculture, we have seen that how agriculture practices, and I am sure in one of the sessions you will have a dedicated session on sustainable agriculture. You must be having a separate block or something on this, because this is something which is very important. So what are the pillars of sustainable agriculture, particularly for our country, we need to be aware of. And sharing of responsibilities is very essential, means uh, who we are interacting with, for what we are managing the land, for whom are we managing the land, and for what purpose. So everybody has to come together. It is not one man's job, it is not one government's job, it is a job of everybody. So that kind of sharing of responsibilities should come. Accountability should be set at every level when we go for land management. So everybody has to be made responsible, accountable, and then only we can have a proper land management where we can see that how we are getting the outputs as desired, and that too in a sustainable manner. So there are different goals, SDGs, you must be aware of. And when we talk about land and land resource management, we can see that we will be able to meet several SDGs by this. For example, SDG one is there's no poverty, or then is quality education and clean water and sanitation. In every time you will feel that when you go, for example, um, take the SDG clean water and sanitation. So very essential when we go for land management, it does include the water resources also. So there are chances that when we manage the land properly, when we check the over extraction of groundwater, there will be provision of clean water and sanitation facilities to all. Similarly, gender equality. We find that there is a feminization of agriculture. Women suffer the most because of land getting deteriorated or water getting scarce. It is the women who are the most sufferers. So when you manage the land properly, when you have proper principles laid down, we promote gender equality in one way or the other. Similarly, affordable and clean energy, when we are using the land for growing energy fuels, for example. So that also promotes affordable and clean energy. So we hope to meet SDGs also with proper land management. As if this indirectly or directly indicates that everything is related to each other. So that you must understand. And for example, there are opportunities for all met by SDG 1, 4, 6. Then doing more with less, you can say, for example, sustainable cities, responsible consumption, how we are consuming the products that we are getting from the land resources. So that is also very important. So in one way or the other, we can say that usage of land for better purposes will help to meet the SDG or sustainable development goals in one way or the other. So if it is a 15th SDG clearly states life on land. So life on land is doesn't only belong to the, of course, the wildlife and we people, but also it has to do something with the land resources also. When we talk about the terrestrial you can say terrestrial organisms which are dependent on good soil, good land, proper management of the land. So that is also something which needs to be understood and which needs to be seen, that ultimately the goal of sustainable development has a punchline that no one should be left behind. So therefore we have to check at every level that how proper management of the land resources or sustainable land management is useful for the fulfillment of the sustainable development goals that we hope to meet by 2030. So in that, another one is integrated land management, which states that how we have to, it is an interdisciplinary approach which identifies various uses of land with different perspectives and identifies the best combination of land management for a given piece of land. So integrated management means that we very well know that on a piece of land various uses is possible, but looking at the principles and identify the best possible option for land management is actually integrated land management, where we look at from all the angles and see that which option is best suitable for integrated land management. So you must understand difference between sustainable land management and integrated land management, because integrated land management is more application oriented, where we decide that on a piece of land how more options can be used, and integrated land management will always strive for sustainable land management. That kind of distinction must be clear. So how you go for integrated land management? As it has been said, identifying the needs of the stakeholders, the different stakeholders, the farmers are stakeholders, the industrialists are the stakeholders, the people who are living on those areas are the stakeholders, the people who use those resources, whatever we are growing on that piece of land, we the consumers, we are also the stakeholders. Evaluating the potential of the land for present and for the future needs, that also we have to take into consideration the future needs of the population. Identify spatial planning units, how you plan the resources in a more systematic manner, and establishing institutional, legislative, and required infrastructure, that is very essential. Because most of the times we fail at this level, we do not have proper institutions in place, we do not have proper legislative framework regarding land use and land usages and different pattas and this and there in the village areas and small land holdings. There are altogether different issues which we cannot even imagine sitting here and discussing about the land management. So it is very essential to go back to the land and see the unique problems and unique perceptions of the people with regards to the use of the land and the ownership of the land. So that that will come when we have the proper institutional framework working at the ground level. We have the proper infrastructure to see that we are able to give them all the benefits which we have been talking in integrated land management. But however, we have constraints. We do not have proper technology in many cases, particularly true for small farmers, small land holdings, wherever we are having. So we do not have any technology wherein we can see and we can explore, we can foresee how it will be used in future, what are the prospects, what techniques can be employed, how we can utilize this land for this and that purposes. Information is altogether lacking. Research information is different, technical information is different, uh, ground information is altogether different. So appropriate information and a synchronization between the different information is hardly taking place at any levels. Research says something else, ground reality is something else, people's perception is different, and the you can say the demands of the economy and the demands of the business is entirely different, and the political agenda is entirely different. So in that differences, it is very difficult to go for integrated land management. At least we have to arrive at a common platform, at a common solution, at a common goal. Then only you can go for integrated land management. There's a poor institutional framework at many places, it is good, but in largely we find that it is a poor institutional infrastructure, unsustainable land use practices going on, fertilizers being applied, extraction of groundwater happening. There are land use conflicts which are very common, and lack of cooperation and communication between different agencies. So these are some of the constraints we find when we go for integrated land management. So I just conclude here with the main point summarizing that land is a natural resource which supports various life forms, and there is no denying to that, because it supports the water resources, it supports the different types of microorganisms. You can say a kind of a plethora of the resources being supported. So it is a base of all the resources, you can say. And the failure to manage land resources has created barriers, because we haven't thought of land as a resource which needs any kind of management, because it doesn't go anywhere. You can once be thinking about the water resources, because you may feel that one day you don't have water to drink, but for land resources, you do not have any such type of things in your mind, because you feel that land is always there. So we have failed in that sense, that we have not recognized land as something as vital as other resources. So that has the barrier towards sustainable development. And when you talk about sustainable land management, it is not simply land. It is not just the soil, but it is much more than that. It is about water, which is beneath that land. You know, there is a groundwater, there is a surface water. Where it is there on the land. So it is talking about water also, biodiversity, also environmental management to meet human needs. So all these things play a very important role in sustainable land management and how to go for it. So information, involvement, empowerment, and facilitation, you must remember these four steps. for integrated land management. Information is very essential. Involvement is more than that essential, and empowerment. In many places we find that ownership of the land, this is very dicey. Ownership not given to women, ownership given to only sons, ownership given to only this, that. So that ownership issues, empowerment even to the weaker sections is very essential. And then you have to facilitate, we have to help, then only we can think about sustainable land management. Thank you so much all of you for patient listening. It was my pleasure to be here, and I hope I am now open to the discussion. I would like to hear from you people now.
Before that, I have a clarification because
Yeah.
in slide this I mean the Chinese slide was done by me, but in that there was a mistake. And slide
Hmm.
number 6, when we show the India map, there was some issues. So I have updated that map because when we are going to upload in YouTube, so that's why I'm giving this clarification. Go to slide 6. So I have updated that right map which is provided by the government of India. Here there was some issue because I have taken from Google Creative Commons. So there are some issues. So I am sure I am want to express my happiness on this. So it is not in our intention. It was not an intentional mistake. But I realized when I was attending the session, so I have updated the right map in the this
Okay.
PPTs I'm going to share. Thank you. Now it is the session is open for discussion.